Okay, so back in Modo, let's talk about what we've learned about gamma and how that applies to actual images. And to do that, let's look at a test scene here. So this is the scene, this is the scene I've been using to create test materials lately. And I need this to be a really nice, balanced scene visually. And if I go over to my shader tree, you'll see that my final color output is set to render at output gamma 2.2. Right now, if you'll remember, back over here, I was explaining we apply gamma 2.2 because our encoding gamma is 0.45, and actually 2.2 is the inverse of 0.45. If you take 2.2 and say 1 over 2.2, that actually equals 0.5. Anyway, inverse, fun stuff. So if we set this down to 1.0, everything looks too dark. This is effectively this path right here. We're taking what our encoding gamma is, we're going straight out on the other side, and we're getting an image that looks too dark. But let's go back again. And if we go back to our analytical scene, where we have imported an image, this one we have different priorities, right? We have a final color output set to 1.0, and that looks perfect. If we set this one to 2.2, the way that I did on my other scene, suddenly my input colors are all wrong. They're much too bright. So what you end up having to do is totally bonkers, okay? I'm going to admit this right off the bat, but this is just the way it is. We have an encoding gamma that's darkening everything, but then we have to apply an output gamma to lighten everything back up so we get that detail back in our image. So when we map an image on, what we have to do is actually de-gamma that image. So right now, this input gamma is set to 1.0, so we're not adjusting this image at all. It's just coming in and going straight out. But if we take the image itself and we give that an input gamma of 0.45, then when the output of 2.2 is applied to it, we end up back in the middle. So now this image matches the input again perfectly. So did that blow your mind? Probably so. Let's talk about that one more time. Effectively, we have an output gamma of 2.2. So to compensate for that, our input colors need to be applied to gamma 0.45, which is the input of inverse of 2.2. That way, when we go back to a scene like this one, and we have our image, and we want it to look right, we need to de-encode that gamma. So we apply a 2.2 gamma to it, so it looks great. When we want to use a color, this is where things go crazy. So if I import my UV checker and just drop it right up here above my base material in this guy, then the colors are going to look okay. But in order for them to look right, I actually need to select this image, and I need to set its gamma to 0.45 to counteract what our gamma 2.2 is doing. Now the colors look correct. So if it weren't for that gamma 0.45, if I left this at gamma 1.0, all those colors look too bright. They don't look right. If I set it to 0.45, they look right when we output at 2.2. So at the risk of belaboring this point, I hope at least we have a better understanding of what gamma is, how it's being applied to our images. But now I want to talk about how that applies to adding colors to our Modo document. We've added an image. Images are just colors, right? So let's talk about how this applies to setting up presets with certain colors.